I'm not sure how much the media will pick up on this story, but another mass tragic event at a school was stopped earlier this week by law enforcement and school officials who were actually watching and paying attention to the signs and doing their job. Now, if the suspect in this story matched a certain description, I'm sure all of you all would have heard of this story. It would be on the front page, it would be headline news all around America. But because the suspect in this story happens to be a teen that is confused about their identity and gender, this story is most definitely going to be buried. But for those of you all who have not been paying attention, it seems as if we have this problem in America right now with young people, and not just young people, but people who are confused about their gender. They seem to be carrying out a lot of violent crimes, almost as if they're mentally disturbed, or almost as if society has, I don't know, set up a false reality for them to live in. And when this false reality is shattered, they don't know how to act because they've been coddled and babied by society. Their mental illnesses and the problems that they suffer from within have been amplified and rewarded by society. And I think this is causing a lot of these people to lash out violently. Plus, they're constantly being told that the whole world is against them just because, maybe you don't want to call a 40-year-old dude in a wig a woman. We got a lot of stuff going on, okay? It's a mouthful. But if you haven't noticed, a lot of these mass tragic events that have been happening lately have been carried out by gender-confused individuals. And another one was just stopped. It turns out that a teen, a girl that identifies as a boy, and this is what we're seeing lately. Usually when you look at these type of events, it's usually a man carrying out these events. But now we're starting to see women that identify as men carrying out these events. So we have a young girl that identifies as a boy that was planning on carrying out a heinous act at 2 public schools in her area. So, let's just go ahead and dive into this article and find out what's going on here before this story gets totally memory hold. A gender-confused Maryland teenager has been arrested for allegedly planning a mass event at 2 schools in a twisted effort to become famous. Alex Yee, 18 of Rockville, whose legal name is Andrea, was arrested Wednesday and charged with threatening mass events after allegedly authoring a 129-page document that the suspect referred to as a memoir. Authorities said the writing was about committing mass atrocities at Wooten High School, which Ye had attended online, and Lakewood Elementary School. Let's pause right there. Kids these days have become so soft, and this is what I talk about when I say that these people are being coddled and babied, right? Back in the day when you would have a kid come to a school and do something crazy and drastic like this, it would usually be because they were bullied, right? And they were lashing out at their bullies. Now we have kids that aren't even physically in school. You're attending online classes. These kids are so soft that they're attending online classes and they can't handle that. So they're like, oh, you know what? I need to get my behind offline and physically go to the school so I can do something crazy. Imagine that. Now, being bullied is not an excuse to go to a school and do anything crazy. That's not what I'm saying, but imagine you're taking online classes. So what's your real motive here? It's not like you're being physically bullied or anything like that. You're just crazy and this gender ideology and all of this other weird stuff that's being spread throughout our society, it is radicalizing these individuals. There's no excuse. No one is bullying you. No one's making fun of you about pretending to be a dude as you take online classes. But let's go ahead and go forward. Ye allegedly told her former school counselor that she wanted to become famous from this event. The student had claimed the memoir was a work of fiction, which included a disclaimer that it doesn't represent the author's beliefs. But a person with whom the student shared the document alerted authorities because it bore striking similarities to the writer. The witness believed that Yi, who is biologically female but identifies as a male, was prepared to carry out the events shortly, according to the news outlet. I want to blank up a school. I've been preparing for months. The pow pow is going to change lives tomorrow. As I walk through the highways or the hallways, I cherry pick the classrooms that are the easiest targets. Yi wrote, I need to figure out how to sneak the pow pow in. I have contemplated making booms. The instructions to make them are surprisingly available online. I have also considered blanking up my former elementary school because little kids make easier targets. High school's the best target. I'm the most familiar with the layout. I pace around my room like an evil mastermind. I've put so much effort into this. My ultimate goal would be to set the world record for the most amount of blanks in a blank. If I have time, I'll try to decapitate, oh my God, my victims. Listen, you're going to have to read this. I can't even say this on YouTube. This is literally some of the sickest stuff I've ever read in my life. Little kids at elementary school make easier targets. If I have time, I want to do what? Ladies and gentlemen, you can think what you want. You can have whatever opinions that you want. But the evidence is starting to show that this gender ideology and all of this stuff that y'all are pumping into these kids' brains, it's having a very negative effect on them. Why on earth would anyone think like this? But when you look at the bigger picture and you realize that kids are literally being raised from a young age with a false sense of reality, and then once they start getting out there into the outside world, they realize that everything they've been fed is some BS. You'll never be a dude. You're not going to wake up and be a guy tomorrow. And in many ways, I believe when their false reality is shattered, these people kind of lose their minds. And because of all of the rhetoric that is being spread in our country right now and in society as a whole, a lot of these people, they don't view what they're doing as wrong. They think they're revolutionaries. They think they're activists. They think they're standing up against the man. They're standing up against the patriarchy. They're taking a stand. They're doing something heroic because they're being, discriminated against. Their lives are being suppressed. They think that they're the victim, so therefore they're a victim simply because of reality. When you feed them this false sense of reality, when they realize what reality actually is, they think they're a victim. They think that everyone else is wrong. Everyone else is bad for not viewing you as a dude or whatever this girl's problem was. So this is a very slippery slope. It always was. And we've had enough time now. Y'all have played around with these kids' minds and their bodies enough now to know that this ain't working out. It's not working out at all. In fact, the exact opposite. And I think it's time that we, put an end to this little shindig. Because when it gets to the point that every couple of weeks we have another one of these gender confused weirdos out here mowing people down in schools and in malls and in churches, I mean, at some point we have to have a conversation. And, it's not just people who are gender confused. It's a mental health problem that we have in this country that's spread throughout society. I believe it's much worse here in America, and no one wants to have the conversations. Instead of having the conversations, we prop up people with mental illnesses, and we incentivize it, and we praise it and reward it. Well, let's go ahead and go forward. According to court documents, the witness told authorities that the writing was about a gender-confused main character named James Wong who was being bullied in school, and other issues that the witness believed were directly from Ye's life and not indicative of fiction. Police said they found worrisome social media posts and internet searches by Ye, including allegedly ranges near me, descriptions of weapons, and the phrase, "but I do recognize that my plan is fully unethical, it's selfish and evil." Chat records allegedly showed the suspect discussing thoughts of blanking up his or her school with another person in September. My homicidal ideation has been getting worse lately to the point that I might act on it eventually, Ye allegedly wrote in December. I want to blank a lot of people, or it wouldn't be worth it, the suspect said in another message that month. There's no allegation that Ye had possession of any of the weapons up to the time of her arrest. The person who shared the manifesto with Baltimore cops on March 3rd and Ye both received treatment at a psychiatric facility in Maryland. Ye started receiving mental health treatment in December 2022 after making alleged threats. Rockville City Police were later contacted and conducted a welfare check on Ye, whose father allegedly told them he was not concerned with his child's mental status because he was certain the teen would contact their therapist. The Montgomery County School District called the charges extremely serious. Montgomery County Public Schools is aware of the arrest of a student from Thomas S. Wooten High School by the Montgomery County Police Department. The charges are extremely serious, involving alleged threats to harm others. The student, who has not physically attended school since the fall of 2022, has been actively participating in lessons through a virtual program called Online Pathways to Graduation. This matter is an ongoing police investigation, and because of student privacy laws, we cannot share any further information. It is important to understand that student privacy regulations are not a matter of arbitrary discretion, but are instead firmly established by federal law. Ye has not yet entered a plea and is being held at the Montgomery County Central Processing Unit pending a bonding hearing. The investigation is still ongoing. So, right away, thank whatever God that you worship that this was stopped, because this sounds very serious. And I've covered a lot of stories like this one. Unfortunately, it's something that I have to deal with very often, because stuff like this is happening every week here in America, every other day at this point. But in all of the manifestos and stuff that I've read, all of which have been sick and disturbing, this has to stick out as one of the most, I don't want to say craziest, because I've seen things that were more, I guess you could say, crazy. But as far as, talking about, I want to go after younger kids because they're better targets, talking about, doing, I can't even fully discuss it, but there's things that were said, in this paperwork that was found that allegedly belongs to this girl. That's just, unlike anything I've heard before. Like more gruesome, more barbaric, more downright cutthroat and evil than a lot of the manifestos that I've read. So that's definitely disturbing. Thankfully someone told. Thankfully, the warning didn't fall on deaf ears. They took it very seriously and they went ahead and took this girl down. The problem is what happens here? Because this story is undoubtedly going to be memory hold because of, the person and their confusion with their identity. Because of that, they're not going to allow this story to really get out there unless people like me and you put it out there. So make sure you share this video on social media if you can. But what I'm worried about is that so often these days we hear stories like this one, and there's always this history of mental illnesses, this history of run-ins with police, this history of threats. And I'm scared that this story will be memory hold. People will move on. This girl who thinks she's a guy will be released from jail. And then sometime in the future, we may be hearing from this individual again. Because unfortunately, when someone isn't successful at carrying out one of these events, even if there's threats and there's talk of it, they're often released right back into the public. And, I'm not trying to be a conspiracy theorist here, but I think sometimes some of this stuff is almost like allowed to happen because the FBI and various other agencies are usually aware of these types of people. Listen, Big Brother is always watching. If you've posted something on social media, it doesn't matter if you don't have a lot of followers. Guess what? Daddy government is your number one follower, okay? If you post something questionable or weird on social media, they probably know about it. So they were already aware of this girl's problems before this threat came about. They were already aware of past threats. That really sticks out to me. Now they're aware of this current one. Of course, she's going to be charged with something, but eventually she'll be right back out and she may try to carry out something like this again. And then everyone will act like, oh my God, we didn't see this coming, when in reality, some people did see it coming. But hopefully that doesn't happen. I'm glad this was stopped, but we're just starting to see this happen way too often. And it seems to be a certain type of person that's really been carrying out a lot of these events lately. And considering the fact that they make up such a small percentage of the population, I find it concerning that they make up such a big percentage in the violent crimes that are currently happening in America. But with that being said, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. While you're down there, hit the thumbs up, hit that subscribe. If you would like to donate, you could donate via CashApp or Super Thanks. But with that being said, always remember to remain opinionated.